Welcome back to the Verge Studios for another episode of Pardon Our Promotion. My name is Scott Johnson, and this is
Bob Savage.
How you doing, Bob?
We're doing great.
Yeah. Good. I like your shirt.
Yeah, thank you.
Got little cocktails on it?
We got cocktails.
Nice.
It's never a bad time to be festive. It's
Right.
Festivus for the rest of us, as Jerry Seinfeld would say.
Classic Seinfeld. Today, what I want to talk about, Bob, I think is we've talked a lot about planning and what goes into a promotional calendar and things like that. But what I want to mainly focus on is, when are you on? When are we on as performers? When does the show start? When does it end? And what does kind of that look like? And what's the mentality behind that? And specifically, we spend all these hundreds and hundreds and hundreds and thousands of hours of planning. What are we executing? How much are we executing? And how do we take advantage of the time that we are executing?
Yeah, that's really a great topic. And I'm going to, again, go a little tangential.
Yeah.
A buddy of mine, Rick Brenner, he kind of challenged me last year. He said, what are we really? And Rick is a owner of a team out east, New Hampshire Fisher Cats, and he said, what are we really good at? And I'm trying to figure it out, and we're having breakfast together. He goes, we're really good at selling. We're a sales organization, and we operate a facility. So we're good salespeople, and we're good operators. Mm-hmm. And I said, oh yeah, that's true. And that's what really the bulk of any off season is for almost every sports franchise in the country. They spend, the calculation is, 2,000 work hours a week for what we call a normal work. It's 50 weeks times 40 hours, right? 2,000 hours. But in sports, all of you can attest to the fact that 2,000 hours is like you're just getting started.
Right.
A lot of people put in a lot of extra hours to work in sports organizations. So, but even if we just use the 2,000 hours a year scenario, we take it times a 20-person front office. That's 40,000 hours of labor that you're putting into preparing to be open for a certain amount of hours, and so if you're a baseball team and you've got 60 shows and and maybe the shows are let's just say 3 hours.
3 hours, sure.
And then you got an hour pregame, that's 60 times 4, 240 hours. You just put in
Compared to all that planning.
40,000 hours and you're open for 240.
Crazy.
Yeah. And it's funny is a lot of these teams do really good for 40,000 hours, or maybe 38,000 hours or whatever.
Yeah, sure.
39,800 hours. And then the last 200 hours when they're open, they forget about being on, because they're actually good at sales and good at operating. And the show is what you're talking about. Right. How do we put on a show and be on, and when do we start it, and when do we stop it, and what do we do during it?
Yeah, so what kind of things are we doing to maximize, we're talking about, the 300 hours or what have you.
Yeah, let's use 300.
We'll just use 300 for sake of argument. And what kind of things can we or should we be doing to maximize those hours in the show?
Well, I guess first of all is to understand that, to be blunt. If everybody in your culture knows that those hours count. I guess I'll go another tangent, different way. Trade shows, our company used to go to trade shows a lot. And, you spend all this time. Anybody that's gone to a trade show and actually displayed at a trade show understands that all of the effort, the logistical effort of moving your product to a trade show, displaying, you're buying plane tickets and hotel rooms, and and the trade show. One of the places we used to go as a baseball winter meetings. The trade show is only open from like 10 to 4 on one day and 9 to 6 the next day. So let's just say 10 hours. Okay, I've just spent tons of time, resources, people. And so then you get to the trade show, and I would just find it fascinating. We're sitting in a trade show, and you see somebody like that isn't even manning their booth. Or they breaking down 2 hours early because they have to catch a plane. I'm like, oh my goodness, all these resources are going into this and you are wasting time. They're like, out to lunch. There's a little tag on there. But like, do you know how much time per minute you have spent on that booth? Right. And the same thing, you take 40,000 hours of labor and you take what that costs of labor per hour and you try to put that over those 300 hours and then you add your game day people to it. There is per minute how much time is like how much effort is made for that per minute of that 300 hours.
Yeah.
We need to be on. We need to be on every minute from gates open, from the very first game of the season, actually even before gates open, till the last fan leaves at the end of the season. You have to be focused on being totally on during that entire time.
Yeah, so that's things like, welcoming people as they come in, or, on the opposite end of that, as they leave, making sure your host is at the gates and your promo team's at the gates. And,
absolutely.
Thank you for coming, and thank you for, experiencing this performance with us.
Absolutely. I read somewhere that the fan experience, either I attended a seminar or read that the fan experience starts with your first contact with the fan, right? Mm-hmm. And so that first contact might be an outbound sales call. It might be the fan logging into Ticketmaster or whatever, to buy that ticket. How is that experience starting? And that experience, of course, manifests itself as the day gets closer. Is the team or the facility sending out emails? Thanks for buying a ticket. This is what's going on tonight.
Right.
And getting people excited to come to their event. And then of course the experience goes into getting in the car. And one of my kids is really in a pissy mood today. So that's breaking down the experience a little bit. So we're battling traffic, and the access to the stadium kind of sucks because there's construction or whatever. Then we finally get to the stadium and we're facing parking. How has the fan experience happen there, mm-hmm. right? That's our first real touch, is who is parking us. If they got a smile on their face, they're saying welcome. And they're actually maybe even cracking a joke as the people are coming into the parking lot. There's your first really in-person touch of a fan, and then it goes and progresses on from there, right?
Yeah, one thing that I found helpful when I've consulted with teams is, they always describe baseball as being romantic. Well, so when I think about the experience, and I've often thought, how do I convey what the experience should be to teams rather than just giving them stuff to do? I want to paint a picture, So, I'm almost writing a book about someone's experience to the team, explaining how it should affect their personality, explaining how it should affect them, how it should make them feel, what their senses should feel like and whatnot. And I discovered that it's, the show is completely romantic too. There's an art to what we're doing here. And then there's an art to the execution, whether it's, you mentioned that parking guy, the parking usher, whether he has like stickers that he can hand to the kids in the car, like little things like that, sets the tone for what they're about to experience. They're gonna, when they enter the gates, you're gonna get the smells, you're gonna get all that. So, mm-hmm. Capitalizing on things like that and adding to the experience, making sure your mascot's out there with the kids early on. Mm-hmm. And having that experience. So there is something that's completely romantic about what we're doing, and it is an art form.
It is an art form, and you go to a Broadway show and they've practiced for months. Well, mm-hmm. First of all, the actors and the entertainers have been making it a career out of it, right? Yep. So they've been going at it for years, and then they practice the show for months before they open their gates. And every sports event in the nation has got that live performance piece to it, with hardly any practice. Right. But they need to focus on that. They need to actually teach that, that parking lot attendant and the ticket taker at the front gate, and you've probably seen it. I know I have. I've literally seen ticket Nazis, right? Mm-hmm. Like the soup Nazis. I was talking about Seinfeld. They're like, they're just stoic and they're mean, and you stay in line and don't, and all that, instead of, hey, welcome, this is going to be fun tonight.
Yes, yeah, exactly right. Yeah, I mean, they're I've been to stadiums with complete opposite experiences as far as just the way the staff embrace the show. And, we've talked about that in the past, how important it is for all the staff to, buy into the culture, buy into the show mentality, especially, once those curtains go up, we're all on. Mm-hmm. So, there's things that, we talked about the parking, there's things you can do before the gates, even in the email communication ahead of time, things to get ready for, the day before your ticket is for, getting an email from the team, things to get ready for your show and what to expect. It all kind of builds into that experience and can really maximize the time we're going to have with these fans or these audience members, rather than just coming for a 3-hour game. You know what I mean?
So let's take a fan through. They've just parked their car and they had a really good positive experience, and now they're walking through your parking lot. Now, is the parking lot got good banners? Is there balloons like at the front gate? What's I think you're talking about that 3D or HD experience.
Yeah.
What's it smell like?
Right.
What's it sound like? What's it look like? That's all part of their experience.
That's important, yeah.
And so as they're coming in, is there music? A lot of places where we put in audio sound systems, we put speakers facing the parking lots. So there's this nice ambiance of music, maybe some gate announcements. Not the crazy ones where like, you can't bring weapons into the stadium. Don't do this, Don't do that. It actually is more pleasant than that, right? You still have to do those announcements, but you can still be more pleasant and welcoming. And this is tonight's promotions. Make sure you check out, we've got a really great burger special going on at the grill down at the third base side or whatever. You can say all those things as they're coming in. So just generally, again, if you're inviting people over to your house for Thanksgiving,
right,
you're planning that you're definitely sweeping your front yard or whatever, or the driveway or whatever. Yeah. You're making sure that when they feel welcome when they're coming in. So then they get to the gate and the ticket experience is good of taking their ticket or scanning their ticket. Mm-hmm. So then what happens? They've walked in and now the curtain's up, as you said. Yep. Good vernacular. What happens there? What happens with the show?
Yeah, I mean, we're going to start looking at things like what's on the video board during this time. What is the content engaging? And, once they're in there, they're ours. So what are we going to do with them? Like the mascot, having the mascot and the promo team around there, because, they haven't quite made their way to their seats yet. They're still working on that, but, their senses are everywhere. The kids are everywhere. And, the mascot and the promo team are going to be that's a good opportunity for them to take pictures, have step and repeats, things like that right out front by high traffic areas. Have the kids sign up for some in-game stuff right there. You have your booth with your promo team, and they're signing up people for this race in the 5th inning, or some kind of water balloon contest in the 6th.
And those promo team has to be active and engaging.
Yes,
I've seen a lot of them that, again, zombies that are walking around are just no energy.
Right.
Because again, when people are walking into the stadium, a lot of them are confused. First-time fans, as we told in a different podcast, people are smart, crowds are dumb, yep, so they don't know what they're doing. Are people engaging them and helping them? Guiding them to their seats, is an usher. You talk about a promo team signing up somebody for maybe some event they're having. Why can't an usher do that when the usher sees his family coming down? But that's engaging. That's at 300 hours where the concession people are part of the show. Mm-hmm. The ushers are part of the show. And the usher sees a little kid. Have you ever been here before? Oh my goodness, we got some things. You should check out the kids zone. Yep. You could go over to that booth over there and sign up and be actually on the field for something.
Yeah.
They don't even know that until they get told that, right?
Yeah, and to have your entire staff with that mentality, and I mean, it makes everybody's job a lot easier if everyone operates that way. Not like you said, not just the promo team or
they're all part of the show.
All part of the show.
Right, and that's of course what Disney has preached for years, and it has translated to a lot of different sports stadiums across the country. But it still doesn't. What is it? A message travels around the world in under a second, but it takes years to get through the last eighth inch into your ears, into your brain, something like that. And so there's a lot of operators that understand that, but they don't fail to engage their concessions workers or they just hire them as we have. Let's get vernacular. We need ticket takers. No, they need talent. We need actors that happen to take tickets.
Cast members,
Cast members, right?
Yeah, that's Disney.
And that's again changing the vernacular. Changing. Are we putting on a show, or are we just putting on a hockey game, or a baseball game, or a basketball game? No, we're putting on a show.
And we'll talk, I think, in a later podcast probably about vernacular, because that's a whole subject in itself. But it does go a long way in changing the psychology of what we're actually doing here. Remember, the way I think about this, and you have the same thought, we're not producing a baseball game. We're producing a show. Baseball is part of the entertainment. It's part of the act.
Correct.
And the players are also cast members in what we're doing as well.
Especially at Jesse's place down at the Savannah Bananas, for sure.
Exactly. Well, yes,
yeah,
exactly.
but they are part of the. But that's one thing. As operators, as long as I'm dropping another name, I'll drop Chuck Domino's name. Chuck used to say, "I have zero control." A lot of people, of course, will. I have zero control of the baseball action. I don't even hire the baseball players. I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't know if they're going to be good or bad, if they're going to suck tonight or win tonight. But I know what I can control.
Yep.
The rest of the fan experience.
Yeah, completely.
Yeah.
And as we've said earlier, the fan experience starts before the curtains go up, and it's found in many areas of the ballpark. Not just the baseball field, and not just between innings. It's always going on until the last fan leaves.
Yeah, so let's go through. This one's a little bit longer podcast. We're going to go because we got a few more things to talk about. We're trying to keep our podcast between like 10 and 20 minutes so that it's a quick bit of wisdom. Hopefully it's wisdom that's easily digestible, and then we'll get on to the next subject. But, as we're going through the pregame, so often teams fumble there because they just they mail it in. They throw a spinning logo on, play some music, and there's good time to kind of bring the crowd down and make them relax with a logo and some music, but not for 45 minutes, okay? Right. There's a lot of people, first-time fans, that usually will get there early because they are first-time fans, and they're going to be bored out of their minds sitting there watching nothing for 30 minutes. So that pregame show has to have some content. What I like to tell teams is, imagine it's a sitcom or any half-hour show on television. You have 22 minutes of programming and 8 minutes of commercials. So the 22 minutes of programming from the gates open until the half-hour mark, you should have some fun stuff. Mm-hmm. Interspersed with some sponsor messages, and sometimes the sponsor messages themselves can be fun, but you give them something to watch. Yeah. Give them something to participate in, right?
Yeah. So. Yeah, I can't tell you how many shows I've been to this summer alone that I walk in, and for the first at least half hour from curtains up, there's just the spinning logo, nothing on the video board. And it's first thing I'll change for teams is the content to the video board at gates open.
Yeah, and in a hockey place, it's the Zamboni going around in a circle. Right. In baseball stadiums, you got a spinning logo. We're talking about the HD experience, the 3D experience. Right. You got a spinning logo, some music, and you see in the groundskeeper bent over. That's it. That's your whole entertainment experience for 30 minutes.
Yeah. It's and the content. It doesn't need to be. It just needs to be slightly engaging with low execution. You know what I mean? And I don't know if you just mentioned it. I may have missed it, but like when you go to a movie theater, before the previews start, they have content on the screen. Mm-hmm. Now, I'm not saying we need to copy that content, but the reason they have content is to engage while you're waiting.
Correct.
For the show to begin, and we need to have that same concept for our shows.
Yes.
And for all our client shows as well.
Then, of course, now we'll get deep into the game, like game production in another podcast, but. You get into the game. Now the game itself, the play on the field, takes care of itself, and you have to intersperse it with, as we said in an earlier podcast, great moments. You have to take care of your sponsors, but you have to also have great moments of entertainment and good epic moments that people can take home with them. They can laugh hard and tell their friends about it, right? So that goes on throughout the day. And again, we this podcast will be an hour long if we get into that right now. But then as the game ends, one thing that I see when the game ends is camera operators taking their cameras down. Sure. On-field promo people walking off. It's done. Like the last out, or the clock runs out in basketball and hockey. Boom. Everybody's demeanor drops down because they're still game orientated instead of show orientated.
Yeah, well said.
And no, the fans are still there. In fact, that first fan is probably going to be your last fan out of the gate. So those fans still need to be entertained. So what do we do post-game?
It's all about your post-game show at that point. And like I mentioned earlier, having the promo team, having our mascots, having our, the promo team signing autographs, for goodness sakes, just for the kids. Like, they should be more part of the show. Having them at gates, having your host at the gates, thank you for coming, interviewing a player is always, that's good for their game. It's good for the show. It provides that level of interaction and engagement for the fans.
Yeah.
But yeah, what have you
The
seen
host,
post game?
the host at the gates, highlights on the video board.
Play of the game. Sure.
You know, the music keeps going. You know, a lot of times all of a sudden it's, oh, we have our game day budgets. Oh, oh my goodness, our game day. We got to cut people, you know, 15 minutes early because we got to maintain our game day budgets. Again, if you're the sales organization that you say you are and the operators you say you are, and you just spent 40,000 hours of labor to get to those 15 minutes, maybe we should spend some money for those last 15 minutes and keep that host talking until that last person leaves. Thank you so much for coming. Make sure you come back next week. We've got this great promotion with this going on and that going on. You got to keep that energy flowing until it's really time to say, lights out. And curtains down.
That's a message straight to the managers, the team presidents, because, you know, they're the ones most of the time making the budget related decisions and, you know, telling you to get those people out of here early. But you're right, that extra half hour, those extra 45 minutes, 15 minutes are so vital.
Yeah.
It's not time to go home just yet.
No, it isn't. No, absolutely not.
You know, you always have time to make someone's experience better or worse.
Yep.
You know,
and wouldn't it be something? I've seen it before. Wouldn't it be something that those last fans are walking out, and all of a sudden there's a player, literally a player, standing at the gate, walking an old lady to her car.
Right.
She's going to be forever a fan.
She'll remember that forever.
Yep.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. Well, I don't know if I have anything else on this. Do you?
I have so much more.
Right.
But we'll hit it in a future episode, I think.
Awesome. Well, appreciate you talking with me. Guys, as always, submit your questions. If you think you have something to add, let us know. If you want to jump on this show with us, let us know. We'll consider it. Until next time, it's all about your fans. Have a good day.
See ya.